pleasure for me to be here, the moderator of this session on connected, cooperative and automated mobility. And here we will have 4 different very important Horizon 2020 projects that will be presented to us. And all these 4 projects play a really very important role to bring automated mobility to the market and to make them more affordable and accessible. So this means that the 4 projects that we are going to hear about, they all contribute to our policy objective in the Commission, which is to support the fast deployment of connected and automated driving technologies. And this objective has also been stated clearly in the Sustainable and Smart Mobility Strategy, which has set the target of having automated mobility deployed by 2030. So our aim at the Commission is to provide innovation-friendly framework conditions and also to provide support for research and innovation actions and for large-scale trials. For the whole duration of Horizon Europe, which goes from 2021 to 2027, we expect to dedicate around 500 million euros of public funding to support research and innovation in the area of connected and cooperative and automated mobility. So that's again a key priority for Horizon Europe, as it also was a key priority for Horizon 2020 to support this kind of research. So this amount will be spent on research and innovation priorities defined by the new created CCAM partnership. So, and it has been, these priorities will be defined in the long-term research and innovation agenda of the partnership. So, and this agenda, which was adopted, was finalized last year, clearly underlines the importance of large-scale testing, piloting, of automated driving functions for passenger cars, but also for freight delivery services and also for shared mobility services to complement public transport. So we believe that only through large-scale testing in real-world conditions with real users, we are able to increase really the acceptance of society and also gain consumers' trust. We also hope that these demos, these large-scale demos, will facilitate the uptake of new business models and give us a better understanding of the expected impacts on mobility, but also on socioeconomic developments. So that's why the Commission will also in the future continue to support large-scale demonstration projects. Just last year we had 2 new projects started, so the High Drive project, which is about testing highly automated driving functions for passenger vehicles. And another project is the Award project, which is about demonstrating highly automated trucks in real logistics operations. But also later this year, we are going to finance 2 more large-scale demonstration projects. And also in 2023, we will fund projects also with the aim to test user-centered shared zero-emission mobility solutions for people and goods in urban areas. So there will be still lots of opportunities for large-scale demonstrations in Horizon Europe. Now, for this session, we will hear about 3 presentations. We will hear about projects like the L3 pilot project, that will be the first presentation, the Ensemble project and the Show project. And all these 3 projects deal with demonstrations of automated vehicles in real traffic conditions. And then there will be also a 4th presentation about the Head Start project, which worked on harmonized solutions for testing automated vehicles. So the aim of Head Start was to define testing and validation procedures for connected and automated driving functions, including key technologies such as communication, cybersecurity, and positioning. Now, I would like to present the speakers here. The first speaker will be Arya Etemat from Volkswagen Group Research, who is the coordinator of the L3 pilot project and also the coordinator of the HyDrive project. Then the second speaker will be Dr. Maria Hudemaker from TNO, and she is also the coordinator of the Ensemble project, which will close tomorrow. Is that right? So you are still the coordinator. Good. The third presentation will be given by Dr. Henriette Cornet from UITP, and she's the coordinator of the SHOW project. And finally, Xavier Seyard from IDIADA, he will present the Head Start project. Okay? So, Aria, are you ready to start? So Aria is a senior project manager at Volkswagen Group Innovation in the area of intelligent ride and automated driving. Since 2008, he has been coordinator of several European flagship projects in the field. For instance, Eurofot, the first European large-scale field operational test for studying the benefits of ADAS on traffic safety and efficiency, and L3 pilot. He's going to talk a little bit more about that. And he currently leads also the HyDrive project, another flagship project for making automated driving more robust and reliable. So Aria, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ludger, for the kind introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. L3 pilot has been concluded last year in October after 50 months. A large-scale project, not only by the means of the budget of around 70 million euros, but also about the number of partners and most of all the complexity of the project. So many topics that have been addressed, and I have the pleasure today to go through some key results of the projects. In the project, we had 300 people working for this more than 4 years, and as you can imagine, there are tons of results out there, and which we could present, and they are available for download on our website. If I want to describe the project in a nutshell, and the idea from the beginning was to have 1,000 participants or drivers in our project, driving with our 100 cars in 10 different countries. Of course, you know what has happened with the pandemic situation and so on, but I'm happy to say that we managed a lot of what we have promised at the beginning. The project has focused on 4 different applications or functions. 2 of them were on motorways. First of all, a traffic jam application, and the second one, the normal driving on highways up to 130 kilometers per hour. Then the third application was the parking application, different types of parking, and the last one, which was from our point of view also the most challenging one, was the urban driving in different cities, Brussels being one of them. The tests have been done in several countries, including cross-border testing, which we found out it's not as easy leaving one country to the other. So you can imagine of the lane markings and the signs that are different, and this is something you have to teach to your vehicle and or consider into your software for behaving correctly if you leave one country for the other. The partners, and this is one of the things that makes such a project large scale, having 13 vehicle manufacturers for the very first time in one single project. This is also unique for UCART. This is our platform for coordination of research projects in Europe. And but of course, as you can see, the partners were not limited to vehicle manufacturers, but also to other groups, to the, for example, insurance companies like Allianz and Swiss Re, and to a number of research organizations and universities. If you start with such a huge project and looking at it from different aspects, you see that you need a common language. It's really different because of the background of the people, because of the type of activities you are planning. You need to really focus on what is a system, what is a function, what is a use case, what is a scenario, and so on, in order to make sure that everybody understands at the end the same if you are talking about specific activities in the project. So I'm happy to tell you that this has been created, a glossary in the L3 pilot, and that has been taking into account vehicle signals, drive measures, and performance indicators. They are all in our deliverables that are on the website, but also the contribution to DIN and SAE norms that are out there and published. On the other hand side, we have been touching the operational design domain that is used and discussed here and there, and we have been looking into definitions, to the boundaries, overlapping conditions, and so on. And there are two deliverables if you would like to have an idea what we have done on the website of the project, so about those topics ready for download. So I said some topics to be discussed here or to be highlighted. First of all, the code of practice. The code of practice is not even new to our industry. There was a code of practice in 2008 for advanced driver assistance systems. This is, if you want, a collection of best practices. In this case, questions you need to answer, or for making sure that you have taken everything into account while designing a system. That is it. These are not guidelines that saying how to design the system, just saying, for example, that you need to think about this and that. That's important. We have started those preparations in 2014 with the adaptive project, and I'm happy to say that last year in October we have published the L3 pilot code of practice for the development of automated driving functions. This is available on the website for download with all the questions and hints that is put together from a large team, and as said, over almost 7 years of working. The next one is methodology. If you want to run such a project, then you need to think about, of course, research questions. You need to have a look at vehicle signals and so on. Most of you may know that FESTA has been doing a great job for preparing the methodology for automated driving. And this has been adapted and extended for L3 pilot, and this is also one of the results. And I'm also happy to see that Satu Inama is also here, who was leading the activities in this topic about the methodology in L3 pilot. The next one is the data. It's if it comes to data, vehicle manufacturers are always very sensitive, and I'm again proud of all our partners who have been going through long discussion with legal departments and so on to find a solution how the data within the project and for outside people could be shared. And the data has been collected. This is what you see on the left-hand side, then has been processed, enriched, and so on, has been used for assessments, and a part of data, aggregated data, is since yesterday published. So again, there is a hint on L3 pilot's data on the website, and if you follow that, this is there for download, and for many of the topics, also for commercial use, the data is available. Being on the road and having the issue of COVID was hitting us, that was really at the beginning of our piloting phase, and but we have managed it. So that was a tremendous amount of effort necessary to make sure that we can run the vehicles, we can collect the data. We have been collecting over 12 petabytes of data, and huge amount of video data and so on, and that has been shared within the consortium and assessed. So this is the overview. So we had over 6,000 hours of driving. We have managed to drive over 400,000 kilometers, and from the promised 1,000 drivers, we had 750 of them in our vehicles. Imagine we had the whole piloting during the pandemic phase. And in addition, we managed to have 600 people for supplementary studies, and there is on the website also explained what those were. The evaluation, there are many information there. There is just one deliverable with over 400 pages about the results of the project. And it would be impossible to show all activities there. We had, I don't know, over 10 presentations during the final event about the project and so on. I have taken one for highlighting if it does make sense to bring and spend money on automated driving. And the answer is on the very right-hand side. The answer is yes. The benefits are clearly higher than the cost for the society, and therefore the recommendation that those systems should enter the market. So more details are in socioeconomic impact assessments available on the website, how we have done this, and you will get some more insight about the activities and how they have managed that one. One thing is still very interesting. This is a so-called longitudinal study. So this is a study that the same study repeats every year. So if we have started with that in 2019, 2020, 2021, this study has been repeated in total in 17 different countries. So almost 28,000 people have been asked for their opinion, what they think about automated driving. And we have an additional study which has been performed by our VTT colleagues. So it ends up to having around 36,000 people who have been in touch with our activities and commenting them. Is that done? No. Ludger has been giving a hint to that. A follow-on project was prepared during the running time during the last phase of L3 pilot. The project is called HiDrive. By the way, I'm very happy to see both project officers of L3 pilot and HiDrive are sitting here and looking what we are doing. Yeah, thanks for coming. Yeah, the project is again a large-scale project. There are many OEMs involved, even larger from the topics than L3 pilot projects. So we had until recently 44 partners in HiDrive. I think soon we will have 55 partners. And the project has started last year. In short description is we have seen during the L3 pilot project that there are some issues where the system will return the control to the driver. So it means the system cannot cope with the situation, and then there is a takeover request necessary. And in order to get rid of the fragmentation, we wanted to introduce new technologies. We call them enablers. That might be vehicle-to-vehicle communication, vehicle-to-infrastructure communication, and using artificial intelligence methods for different topics and supervising driver activities and so on. With those methods, our plan is to enhance our functionalities and bring those systems to the market. First for the piloting in HiDrive, and see that we have continuous driving from A to B. So that's it. The project website will be soon completed. The website is there, so you can have first information, hidrive.eu. But we will come with some more information about the project as such, and I'm available if you have any questions. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Arya. Thank you very much for this presentation of L3 Pilot. I mean, we can clearly say that L3 Pilot has been really one of our biggest flagship projects in Horizon 2020. The project was really unique, I must say, possibly in the world, due to its size of the project, involving so many different European car manufacturers and so many other partners that were involved in that. But also in all the different activities that you have implemented, and thanks for presenting all these activities. And also due to the high number of trials that you have done on motorways, on urban streets, and also in parking scenarios. Okay, thank you for that. We will take the questions then at the end when all the presentations have been given. Then we will have plenty of time for a question and answer session. And this will be done, this will be moderated by Sebastian Große from TNO, who is here in the front, and he is also very much involved in the CCAM partnership, and also co-chairing the cluster on validation activities. So that will be Bastian's role then after that. Okay, then we will go to the next presentation that is on the Ensemble project, and this presentation will be given by Dr. Marika Hudemaker, who is a senior project manager at TNO, where she has been conducting human factors research in mobility for more than 20 years. And after finishing her study in experimental psychology, she went to the Delft University of Technology to work on her PhD about the introduction of automated vehicle guidance systems in personal road transport. And she received her PhD in 1999. And of course, she still is the coordinator of the Ensemble project. Marika, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ludger, for the nice and extensive introduction, actually. And yes, I guess for now it's important that that I will be presenting the Ensemble project to you as the coordinator. And as you already said, that's my job for 1.5 days from now on. So I'll start with a short project introduction for those of you who still, after 4 years, the project might sound new. So it was a project, quite a big project actually, that started in 2018. And it's coordinated by TNO, but we are very proud to have, for example, all the European truck manufacturers in there. We heard L3 Pilot with a lot of OEMs in there. The truck manufacturers in Europe are only 6 in the end, and they were all there. So I think that was really nice to work with them. We also had the European automotive suppliers there, represented by Klepa, but also the suppliers themselves, like Bosch and Brembo, Continental. We had Artico on board and some knowledge partners to work on impact studies like IDIADA for testing, but also the Université Gustave Eiffel. So we had 19 partners in total and 20 million euro funding, which is now spent in a very good way, I think, with lots of nice results. I only have a couple of slides to tell you about the results. But of course, on the website, you can find all the deliverables, which are actually all of them are public, so you can read a lot about the project. Ensemble is about paving the way for multi-brand platooning in Europe. And I think it's important to emphasize that multi-brand is something completely new. It was, at least at the moment we started. Of course, we already did before platooning. There was already some cooperative ITS, etc. But to be able to bring this idea of trucks driving in a convoy with communication technologies, bring it a step further, you need to be able to communicate not only with trucks from your same brand, but the newest thing is that you can do this with trucks of all other brands. But then, of course, you need to align and standardize on what language you're talking. And that is actually a challenge in Europe. but also around the world, as we know. But that's what we did, actually. We aligned with all the partners there, and we came to standardization of those multi-brand specifications of the communication protocol. And we not only wrote that on paper, we actually implemented that platooning specification in all the differently branded trucks in Europe. And it actually worked. We drove with those trucks on the European roads in real traffic and under the real traffic conditions, actually. And at the same time, we looked at what could platooning mean when you look at the impacts for European roads, for safety, for business case. So there are lots of studies apart from the actual implementation work. And there are the green stars, as you say, well, there's only one day left, but we managed to do all of this, actually. So the main achievements are that we've actually developed that and deployed in the real environment that technology, which was agreed with all the leading OEMs. It's actually now ready for standardization. During the project, we already, and I'll tell you a bit more about that later, we already brought it to the standardization bodies. And it is able to cope with different traffic use cases, of course, to be able to do it in real traffic. And then at the same time, which I think the last bullet is even the most important one here, is that it's not only the first function that is now implemented, but it's actually, we also took it a step further to look at the requirements for more autonomous platooning, where there is only the driver in the first vehicle and that the following vehicles could be driverless. I'll explain a bit more about that, how that works. So there is actually the one function that we implemented and the function that we made the specifications for, which is at the same time how we see to move forward with this communication protocol as a basis. So you see at the left-hand side what we call platooning as a support function versus the platooning as the autonomous function. And here you can see a bit of an overview of the differences and the communalities between the two. So in both of them, the lead truck driver is responsible for his or her driving task. In the end, legally responsible. Same with the autonomous function. But in the following trucks, for the support function, there's still a driver, and that driver in the end is also legally responsible. He or she is supported by a support function with a time gap of about 1.5 seconds. And the advantage of this support function, which was one of the main goals of Ensemble, is that it's in principle ready for deployment on the roads, which we've shown by actually implementing it. At the other side, there are drivers maybe in the following trucks, but in the end, they're not legally responsible for bringing the truck safe from A to B. So it's supported, but it's controlled, actually, those trucks. And in that way, you can bring the time gap between the trucks in the platoon to smaller distances. Because main reason why you can go to smaller distances, if there's no driver that is in the end legally responsible, which means that he should be able to act or react when the system is not able to handle the situation anymore, the driver still needs to be able to take his responsibility, which means that you need to take into account a driver reaction time. So when you take the driver out of the loop, you have the system responsible, and you can also take out the driver reaction time, and that's one of the main reasons when you can go to the closer following. The first introduction would be in confined areas or hub-to-hub applications for trucks in the logistic environment, whereas the other ones is deployable on all the roads. And the main benefits that you can see is that, well, on top of that, it's already, I guess, with the support function, improving safety and efficiency. You can also see for the autonomous function, which is more the future one, the improved driver productivity, and also maybe a solution for the current driver shortage, the possible improvement in the fuel efficiency. So there is a lot of reasons why you would want to go on also in terms of safety and sustainability with these developments. So Ensemble really implemented the support function, and we laid the foundation already aligning with each other for the autonomous function. And as I already said, we contributed, and I think that's there's lots of results, but this is an important one here, is that at the same time we contributed to the standardization. So the platooning protocol that we develop actually supports both of the ones, so it's not a totally different communication protocol. The one from the support function is actually taken further in the autonomous function. But the new platooning communication protocol fits in what is already out there in the ITS protocols, in the standardization. So we contributed this to the ISO norms, and we also contributed to the ETSI technical report on platooning, where it is not finished yet. It will stay there, and we will keep on contributing to see how this moves on with the standardization. And then one slide on the impacts of platooning. As I wanted to show a bit with this arrow, is that of course you have the basis of developing the technology, of implementing the technology, but still you have to look in the end to the effects of it. Why would you develop and implement if it doesn't help for infrastructure, for economic effects, for traffic flow, for traffic safety? And you can see with all of those colored lines that is what the Ensemble project actually looked at. We looked at the impact on the roads, tunnels and bridges, on the impacts on fuel consumptions, on the economic benefits, of course, on traffic flow, but also on the impact on other road users. Because there's trucks, but there's also other road users encountering all those platoons. I can't tell you all the details. Actually, there's not much I can say in only these 15 minutes, but I took out the fuel consumption conclusion and I took out the economic benefits conclusions, which I think is interesting to share here, also maybe for a discussion later during the session. So, as maybe already a bit anticipated, when you look at the support function with the relatively large gaps, there is no effect on the fuel consumption. Because it's actually not that much different in what is driven at this moment in our roads. So you might want to look at a difference with the truck driving standalone, but that is not a good comparison. We have to make sure that we find effects on fuel consumption and emissions when you compare it to the already existing situation on the roads. But yes, when you look at the autonomous function, with the headways lower than the 1 second, then you could really see the potential effects on the fuel consumption and emissions. They're feasible, but still, this is not implemented yet. So at the same time, we say we really have to look further and compare with the current actual situations of what that will do. And this actually also relates a bit to what we call the business case of platooning, because for fleet owners who want to look at the platooning system for their fleets, they need to invest in this, probably. And then they look at what can I save for my fuel, for example, what can I save for maybe my driver costs. And then the autonomous function really is a favorable business case for them. But the support function also has a business case, but not directly in terms of money for the fleet owners. This is more on a societal level, because it's, as I already said, expected to increase the traffic safety, the driver comfort, but also has quite some effect on the road capacity. So this is also a business case, but more on a societal level, and I think it's important to not forget about these possible effects as well. Last slide from the ensemble project for now. I think the main conclusion in general is that we made an important necessary step towards that future autonomous platooning. And also, I think it's really great that all the leading truck manufacturers in Europe agreed on those specifications for those autonomous platooning. So for the important step towards the future. I think we need to, there's lots of things we can do further after the project, but just to name two of them, I think we have to look at more applications of both autonomous, maybe also support function in a logistic environment, so we can have more details on what it really means in reality instead of just demonstrating. And of course, when you really want to bring autonomous platooning to the roads, you also have to look at the regulatory framework for that. Is it possible to drive with the shorter headways? Can you really take the driver out of the loop, or can you give him maybe a different resting scheme when you go to the more autonomous platooning function? So lots of interesting stuff to follow. Thank you very much for now.
Okay, thank you very much, Marika, for your interesting presentation. So what I take from this is that Ensemble has really made already major progress towards multi-brand platooning by working on the specifications and on the required technologies for multi-brand platooning, and also by demonstrating that multi-brand platooning is possible, but for the support function, not for the autonomous function. So I guess that there a lot of further research is needed, because this is where all the benefits we can expect now when we look at the autonomous support function, where we see the benefits in terms of economic benefits and also in terms of emission reduction. Okay, thank you very much, Marika. Now we come to the third presentation, which will be given by Henriette Cornet, who is Senior Manager for Automated Mobility at the International Association for Public Transport, UITP. She graduated as material engineer in 2007 in France and received her doctoral degree from the Technical University of Munich in 2012. And she worked then 5 years for the automotive industry as consultant in Germany and more than 3 years as principal investigator in the research institute TAM Create in Singapore. Her expertise is in automated mobility, investigating through European projects the benefits, limitations, and requirements of the technology from a multi-stakeholder perspective, with the citizens and the mobility services at the center. And of course, you are the coordinator of the SHOW project, which is still going on. It started in 2020 and it will go on until the end of 2023, right? Okay, Henriette, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ludger, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you today to present you the SHOW project briefly, as brief as I can for such a big project. And I think it matched very well with the projects that have been presented before. FC Pilot being more on private cars, Ensemble on trucks, and SHOW is really about shared mobility, so I will say you a word about it. In a nutshell, yes, it's about deploying shared mobility with a fleet of connected and electrified vehicles in cities. So we focus on cities and peri-urban areas, but that's really where the core is. And as you can see, this project is one of the largest initiatives so far, because we have 70 partners. I'm still surprised when I'm saying it, because as a coordinator, you can imagine it's a very, very big challenge to coordinate such a large project. We are, as Ludger said, we are in quite of the middle of it now, starting in January 2020, and it will last until end of 2023. We are now in the best phase of the project, I would say, because we have done all the technical development. I will say you a word about it, and now we are putting the vehicles on the road, doing the demonstration. So it's the best time for me to present this to you. And we are funded by the Commission with 30 million euros. So here we are with our super large consortium, challenging on the one side, but on the other side, it's a great opportunities for us to have so many partners on board because we are covering the entire ecosystem of shared mobility. We have vehicles manufacturers, so shuttle manufacturers, we have operators, we have authorities, cities on board, we have several technology providers, many universities doing research on the project, as well as international associations like UITP. We have this ambition of being the biggest and most holistic real-life demonstration initiative ever, meaning we are covering many things for this deployment to happen. On one side, and that was what occupied us a lot during the first 2 years of the project, all the technical developments needed to have these vehicles in place, to have this system running, having technical solutions, these business models developed, always with at the center the travelers, because we have a strong user engagement strategy all over the project that makes sure that what we are developing is really providing a service that is useful for the citizen. So deploying our connected electric fleets of AVs for shared mobility, we are entering the phase, as I mentioned, of real-life demonstration. And this is also special, and you will see it. I hope it's the next slide. It's come after, but the real-life demonstration lasts for several months, and that's also something special in this project. Very quickly, I wanted to show you our work structure. Being so large, we have a very complex work structure with 18 work packages, some of them being already finished, some of them ongoing. And the real-life demonstration on the bottom, as you can see, is really what is happening now, having all the everything that we have developed before feeding into it. And what will come next will be our impact assessment to know how good we did with everything, and also very interesting, or specifically for UITP, the development of roadmaps or recommendations, guidelines, similarly to the projects that have been presented before, like L3 pilots, to be sure that everything that we learn can be nicely transferred to other initiatives, being a project or local initiatives in cities. From our timeline, as I mentioned, it's kind of split in half, the project. So everything before was about preparation, having all the licensing for being able to put the vehicle on the road, being allowed to put the vehicle on the road, having the technical verification happening. And what we call the pre-demo activities was, let's say, a rehearsal without final users, citizens, real citizens, more just the employees from the different entities. And now going into our real-life demonstration, it started beginning of the year. It will last until mid next year. From some sites, it depends the length, but at least it's 6 months. And that's also something important, as I mentioned briefly before, to be sure that the services are regularly used. So having just a short trial, it's nice, and we can always gather the feedback anyway. But if people manage to use it in their everyday life, I think that's where we will get most of the feedback. So that's what we plan to do now for the coming 1.5 years. Here is the map of our demo sites with the fleets of vehicles that we want to deploy. So we are targeting 70 vehicles. We have private cars that are retrofitted to be with automated functions to be deployed as robotaxi. We have shuttles, and we have also buses retrofitted for public transport. We are addressing mainly person mobility, but also goods. I think that's something interesting to see, that in the project on some sites, we will see, for example, how can we use a shuttle. One, like spatially, a place for the people, a place for goods delivery, or maybe depending on the time of the day, having during peak time usage for person mobility, and when there is less travel demand, we could use it for transporting goods. I highlighted 3 main demo sites that started already. One is Tampere in Finland. You can see the picture on the bottom with the snow. And that was interesting because having the snow, you don't see the lane marking on the road anymore, so it's challenging for the vehicle, of course. But when we have a challenge, it means we learn a lot. So that's what we will get from this demo site, having this harsh environment. Another one, I'm jumping now south in Austria with Carinthia, being more a mountain environment, which has also its challenges as such. And we have the site of Linköping in Sweden, in which we are focusing on vulnerable users. For example, as here in the picture, looking at a wheelchair user, how can they board and alight the vehicle, and how is the drive for them. And we got already some nice insights, mostly qualitative for now, on how users are perceiving this service. But more to follow. So I selected some activities of the project and what we have achieved so far, because in 2 years we had time to develop already many things. We have our pre-acceptance survey already ongoing, and we will after have, during the trials, of course, also a comparison how people perceive the system. Our simulation studies are ongoing, and regarding the architectures, the physical and digital infrastructure are in place in all sites. We have also our dashboard operational. That could be quite interesting for you. It will be a place, an interface, when we are actually collecting all the data and visualizing them on a let's say, user-friendly way, where you can see, for example, the number of vehicles deployed, the speed, the number of passengers, and so on. So everything will be centralized in one place in the project, and will be where also for the impact assessment a lot of information will be gathered. What I wanted to show you at the bottom is a mechanism, a very nice mechanism that we have in the project called follower site, meaning, as you can see, with all these sites that we will have in Europe, it will be a pity to stay there, so we can expand even more, and SHOW can really become a platform for cities, for authorities that want to exchange on how to deploy shared mobility in their local areas. And we have received already applications from the city listed, so we will have even more lessons learned, best practices from all these sites joining us now, but it won't stay probably there. I guess there will be more in the future. Also, speaking of expanding, and it's really the way I see this project being so unique, is it's a platform, it's a collaboration platform. We try to go beyond the consortium, for example, with consultation, and I think today it's exactly the perfect place for it, because you have heard already some presentation from the project listed here. We have created a project group named Automate. I hope you will hear about it more in the future. It's very new. And with the project that you see here, so Avenue, Harmony, Sprout, Frontier, Pascal, and 5G routes, it has been supported by the European Commission through the Horizon Results Booster, and to the project coordinator, project partners here on board. You should apply to this HRB program, because it's supporting very well dissemination activities or exploitation, how to exploit your results properly. So we will have more things coming, like joint session at conferences or joint event with this new Automate group. We also collaborate beyond Europe, having, for example, collaboration with Japan. I want to emphasize especially Japan, because that's the one that is the most advanced in the project, because we signed an MOU defining already some topics on which we want to exchange, for example, vehicle behavior at intersections, also regulatory issues. And we also have discussions with other countries with which we have signed agreements. And one of the goals that I really would like so I have in the project is to have the cross-cultural study on citizen perception of the service, and that we could compare over the different countries. That's something that we want to do. So that's a great activity in the project, I have to say, because we have a freedom to really explore which collaboration are possible and how deep we can dive in this different collaboration. And I can see already nice insights coming out from this. So a word about our dissemination and communication activities. We are very active on social media. I hope some of you have seen our post coming by. I want to emphasize here the stakeholder forum, particularly that we have in SHOW. As I said, SHOW is really a platform, so many stakeholders practitioners working in the field of CCAM should join and discuss with us. So if you are part of a demonstration somewhere in Europe, join this stakeholder group and let's exchange together. For now, it has been more or less informal exchange, but we will have this year large-scale demonstration events happening, one probably in Madrid, next year also in Germany, and the stakeholder forum will be gathered there, so register and be sure to be with us on these events, and you will have the opportunity to also interact with us and give your feedback, for example, for these recommendations that we are drafting. If you want to get to know the project better, go to the website, of course. There are already some deliverables submitted there and approved by the Commission. And you can also see on YouTube, we have nice videos, very short videos that condense everything that I've said now in 2 minutes. So have a look. And the last thing I want to highlight on this slide is the podcast. We started a podcast. The goal of this podcast is also to go beyond. So now here in the room, we are all experts, researchers working on this field. But we also want to connect, I would say, with the outside world. And people are wondering sometimes, and I'm sure in your families and friends it's the same, they don't exactly know what we are doing or why we are doing that. And this podcast will really create this link. Who are the people driving the change of automation and why are they doing this? What is the motivation for them? And also describing, for example, what is a European project, because I think many citizens are not aware of that. So that would be a very nice link, I believe, with the public. That's my last slide about the expecting impacts of the project. We had, as I saw at the beginning when I started, the project was already awarded when I started, and seeing the ambitions that SHOW want to be the game changer, I thought, okay, it's very ambitious, but now being 2 years in the project, I can see that it has this potential, because we can see that because of our pilots. So our pilots are always part of a bigger picture, meaning we are always connecting with some local ecosystems that are already in place, with some initiative, with some project. So, and SHOW can make this bigger, can make the exchange bigger, so we are sure that it will perdure after the project ends. And among others, I just listed one here. So we are developing, for example, industrial standards. They will stay after the project. Thank you very much for your attention, and you can see our social media linked here on the website again. Go there, there's a lot of information, and don't hesitate to exchange with me later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Henriette. That was also another impressive presentation and an impressive project, I must say, with also many possibilities for interaction and getting involved. Thank you for that. I think SHOW is really also unique in terms of size and also diversity of demonstrations. It is so far the biggest and the most holistic project that you have mentioned in Europe, possibly also in the world, I don't know, I guess. And the project really shows great potential for shared automated vehicles to advance sustainable urban transport. But of course, the demonstrations just have started. We would be very much interested to see maybe in 2 years from now what the impacts of all these demonstrations will be really on urban transport. Okay, thank you very much. Now we are coming to the fourth presentation on the Head Start project, which will be given by Xavier Seillard, who holds a Master of Science in Industrial Automation and Electronics and a Bachelor in Telecommunications with a specialty in electronic systems. Xavier has developed his career in the development of automotive systems, and he contributed to defining requirements and also developing embedded software for ADAS and CAF applications, so connected automated vehicles. And since 2018, he is responsible for the technical coordination of the electronics department from IDIADA headquarters, with special focus on connected and automated driving. Correct? Okay, Xavier, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. Okay, so today I'm presenting the Head Start project. The main goal of Head Start was to define a common methodology at European level for validation of connected and automated driving. Okay, so basically, in a summary, Head Start project is from the Horizon 2020. The project finished last year, on 2021, December 2021. Has a budget of 6 million euros and was coordinated by GDADA. Okay, so well, the consortium was built in a way where we wanted to have different views from the whole community. So that's why we had a good representation of all of them. Okay, basically, we're having 7 research centers, 2 technical services, 3 Euro NCAP laboratories, 4 OEMs, 2 Tier 1s, and 3 coordinators of Horizon 2020 ART calls. So, in summary, the main objective of the Head Start was to define validation procedures for connected and automated driving, and also taking into consideration the key-enabled technologies that we defined in the project, which were communication, cybersecurity, and positioning. And also, we defined 5 main objectives. Okay, first of all was to identify. Okay, so basically, in that step, what we wanted is to understand the requirements of the different stakeholders, and secondly, to do an harmonization. Okay, basically, what we saw is that there were many initiatives, and the idea was to try to come with a common framework for validation of automated driving. And then it was not only a theoretical work, we also defined and developed the methodology and demonstrated it in some linked projects, which was the 4th step. And then we were reaching consensus by having different meetings with the different stakeholders of the community, where we were presenting the results and we were doing iterations in order to improve the methodology. Okay, so the next step, the identification, how was done. So basically, first of all, we wanted to take into consideration all the user groups, which basically were consisting in the, for example, homologation requirements, the consumer testing like Euro NCAP, different requirements from the OEMs, and also we take into consideration some methodologies which were already at the European and worldwide level, like Pegasus, Move, Streetwise, and some others. And basically, we were doing a kind of gap analysis, okay, because many of the methodologies were having good points, but some of them were trying to solve somehow the same issue with a different manner. So the idea was to come with a kind of Head Start methodology requirements at different levels that were the ones that we had to consider in order to define the methodology. Okay, so the next step, which was the harmonization, basically was to define how we can meet all the requirements that were identified. Okay, so basically, we came with a methodology which was consisting in 3 main steps. The first step was, 3 main parts, let's say. So one of the things that was identified that this is quite needed to have a database which is representing the ODD of the different driving functions. And this database could be built by data, which is could come from different sources like field operational testing, simulation, and so on. But also we can fill this scenario database with information coming from the expert knowledge. Once we have this database of a scenario, the next step is to have a strategy to do a selection of a scenario and also to allocate the scenarios to the different test methodologies or test platforms that are available in the different projects, let's say. And lastly, was considering the testing and evaluation part. Okay, so basically, this part was consisting in executing the selected scenarios in different test platforms, which were defined as virtual, environments, proving grounds, chill, and also field testing. And an important part was that from this high-level methodology, we defined the procedure. Okay, so basically, in the procedure, we were going in more details in what needs to be done in each part of the methodology, step by step. And we implemented this methodology in 3 use cases, which were track platooning, highway pilot, and traffic jam chauffeur. Okay, so the selection of the use cases was based in basically in understanding which were the most important ones at that moment for the stakeholders of the community, and basically we selected these 3 ones as the most important at such a stage. An important part of the project was also to demonstrate that the methodology was working, and the idea was to look for different linked projects where we could demonstrate part of the methodology. What is important to remark is that we cannot show the methodology in all the projects from the starting point until the end, but some parts of the methodology we demonstrated in the linked projects that you can see in the following slide. Okay, so here it's important to remark the part of reaching consensus. Basically, we had different meetings with the stakeholders where we were presenting the procedure and also the results of the project, and we were doing some modifications or adapting the methodology if we were identifying more gaps that need to be filled. Here I would like to show the results of the project.
The Head Start Harmonized European Solutions for Testing Automated Road Transport project aims to define testing and validation procedures of connected and automated driving functions, including key technologies such as communications, cybersecurity, and positioning. The Head Start project brought together the consortium with other European and national CCAM stakeholders to cluster the most relevant existing initiatives, develop methodologies, procedures, and tools, and drive in a harmonized European solution for testing and validation of automated road vehicles. This way, it's been possible to harmonize past and present projects, utilizing common databases to analyze the data of international and national projects. This process led to the definition of a set of relevant testing scenarios that were the foundation of the project. These relevant testing scenarios were created using a very large selection of real-life data taken from different sources such as simulator studies, accident data, aerial data, and field data. The testing scenarios were then selected and processed, analyzing their feasibility. With all this preparation work done, the new test scenarios were created. These scenarios were then executed and evaluated in all available testing platforms and demonstrated in various projects. This also required the definition of a coordination criteria that would bring together the CCAM stakeholders and allow each user group to utilize their own testing environment, but with a common validation methodology. These procedures were divided in 4 main iterative test methods. The virtual testing methodology consisted in the setup of needed resources, setup of interfaces and plant models, as well as the setup of the metrics to define the KPI. With this preparation done, the tests were executed and monitored in the virtual environments, and all data was extracted and stored for its study and evaluation. ZIL testing was also carried out. In this, the preparation consisted in the validation of all components, the identification of the test cases, as well as the consideration of all KPI for the selection and definition of test parameters. The execution of these tests was far more complex than the virtual testing and therefore required more resources and time. Once these tests were executed, the relevant parameters for evaluation were extracted and used to compare them with the KPI requirements. Another test method evaluated consisted in real-life proving ground testing. For this, relevant test scenarios were evaluated and vehicles were put to test. These vehicles were tested against infrastructure equipment such as dummies, GNSS stations, and other moving vehicles. The execution of these proving ground tests was long and complex, as many more parameters were needed to be accounted for. All the data of these tests, as well as the results, were also stored and analysed in order to extract the relevant parameters for evaluation and their comparison with all KPI requirement data. The fourth test method used included the vehicles and systems tested in the field. With all this, the Head Start project, through all the partners of the consortium, was able to define and unify methodologies and procedures on an international level in order to provide a safety assurance framework in which to accommodate all different national initiatives and thus create a harmonized European solution for testing automated vehicles.
Okay, so basically, as we have seen in the project, one of the main challenges of automated driving is to align all the different toolchains which are from different projects. That's why it's important to continue working hard in the standardization part. Okay, so still we need to keep working in the standardization of the toolchains for connected automated driving, but still they have a lot of work that has been advanced. So it's also important to talk about having a common scenario database that could be used for the validation of the different functions which are going to be in the market in the future years. And basically, this becomes necessary to continue working in that direction, no? Improving the methodology, and there are further initiatives that will continue this work. And basically, we will keep working in that direction with the Sunrise project, which is a project from the Aeroson, which will start in September, and we will continue working in filling the last gaps that we have. I think we are in a good direction, but still we need to keep working in the standardization part of the tooling, and also defining a good database of scenarios that we could use for validation of connected automated driving. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Xavier, for your presentation. Well, indeed, Head Start has made a lot of progress on the way to define testing and validation procedures for connected and automated driving functions. And it provides also a very good basis now for continuing the research and working towards a common scenario-based methodology for CCAM solutions, which will be developed now in the new Horizon Europe partnership for CCAM. And you mentioned that, and you have seen the long list of things still to be done. So many of these things that you mentioned will hopefully be taken up in the new framework program on Horizon Europe and the partnership. Okay, thank you very much. Now I pass the floor to Bastian, who will then guide us through the question and answer session. Bastian, please.
Thank you, Lutger. So, dear speakers, thank you for your very nice presentations. In a minute, I will give the floor to you to ask very challenging questions, because we've seen a lot of very nice results over the last few years. But of course, it's also interesting, what were the real challenges that you were facing? What's next to come? And I would like to mention one thing. And I said, Lutger, it was about 10 years ago, a bit less than that, where we were also in this room. And at that time, we were discussing the levels of automation. How should we do that, and how do we define them? And I would say in less than a decade, we are here back again with demonstrating, piloting, not only with passenger cars, but also with trucks and with urban mobility solutions. So with all vehicle types of our road transport system, we're showing that we're paving the way to large-scale deployment. So I think that's really a big effort. Also thanks to you and all those to all those parties, all those companies and organizations involved. So I would like to start now. We have about half an hour. So who's the first one who dares to ask a very nice question to one of our colleagues here at the stage? Please feel free. There is a microphone. Maybe you can stand such that we can hear you loudly.
Hi, thank you. My name is Joshua Kukulski. I'm here on behalf of Toyota Motor Europe. I have a question mainly for you, Henriette, about autonomous shuttles. So we're working on understanding how to commercialize autonomous shuttles in Europe. Most of the efforts so far have been on the driving technology, but not so much on the automation of passenger, let's say, monitoring. I think this is a big part of the way that we commercialize these type of vehicles. So I'm wondering what is going on in terms of monitoring in the shuttles in your deployments across the different cities, from the fleet operators, or what is autonomous already happening in the vehicle. Of course, we need customer buy-in to feel safe and secure in these services, all types of people. So what are the activities ongoing? Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for your question. I hope I understand it correctly. So you are interested in knowing if we are looking only at the vehicles or beyond as well, and how we connect with the user needs or with the services, so to say. So in short, we have development on the vehicles directly, because we have the chance to have the vehicles manufacturers directly on board. So yes, they develop I would say the usual detection, also all the fusions that you need of the algorithm to take the decision, so on the driving behavior and everything, so that is covered within the project. Nice to have the diversity of operators, so that we can, of operators of the manufacturers, so we can compare. But we are also looking at the infrastructure in place that is needed. That's something I think personally is very interesting to see how much infrastructure will be needed in the cities to endorse, to support these vehicles for driving. So we are working on the physical infrastructure, for example, as the traffic lights and so on, to have the connectivity, to ensure the connectivity, so V2I connectivity. And we have, of course, all the digital infrastructure with something that we call, so we have different system architecture in place, in which we are investigating in the project how data is exchanged at different levels. So with more an open data sharing, and one more closed, depending on what the OEMs can share. And this we are investigating too in the project. And this will help later to move towards more, for example, interoperability, having different brands from different vehicles deploy at the same site with this system architecture in place. And of course, all these developments, as I mentioned, are always targeting different services, and the services are linked with the business models, with the business cases, and with the services deployed for the users. Did I answer your question? Or?
Can I just follow up?
Yeah.
Maybe specifically about in-cabin monitoring. So if a passenger falls and there's no safety steward,
I see.
business case?
It's interesting that you mentioned this specific case, because we had recently a user engagement through Ideathon and now through Hackathon, in which that was something that the users brought themselves, that they would like to see something like that. And we will follow up this possibility to have, I know it's from I think it's from the CERT Institute in Greece. They're investigating how to detect automatically behaviors that are like unusual behaviors, exactly someone falling or even an aggression. How can we have kind of a AI system, something detecting automatically unusual behaviors, to be sure that it can be like that we can have, for example, human intervention when an unusual behavior is detected. And that's something that we notice the users want to see, and we will investigate further in the project.
Thank you, Henriette. Any other questions? Just speak out loud. It's
Yes, there are many lessons learned with regard to the admission procedure of those vehicles. Indeed, this is very different in Europe, so this is what we learned first. There are in some countries very complex requirements to receive the approval. The best idea would have been to receive the approval in one country and go with that vehicle to other countries also for testing without maybe having to go from step 0 to the end of the procedure for the second country. There are some ideas in L3 pilot how to develop, as we call it, a code of practice for road testing, and this is what HiDrive is has taken up, and I'm happy that several partners led by TÜV in Germany would focus on that and develop the idea of harmonized road testing in Europe.
Thank you, Arya. There's another question, please.
Hi, my name is Cristina Olaverri. I'm from the Johannes Kepler University in Linz in Austria, and I have a question regarding the Ensemble project. Hi. It was not very clear to me how actually you were testing the whole platooning, with how many tracks, how many kilometers, in what kind of roads. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit more on the results regarding this test, please?
Yes, thank you very much for that question, because there was no time in my presentation to do that. So actually, we had 7 truck brands that were equipped with the platooning support function. And they started actually with testing mono-brand on their own premises. Then they came together with another brand, so we did duo brand, then we did triple brand, and we even did a quadruple brand. And then in the end, only finally we came together with all 7 brands in Spain. That was last September. Of course, this was also a bit delayed due to Corona, and we were not able to travel to each other's countries, etc. But in the end, we managed to do this. And in Spain, we tested for 1 whole week on the test track. So we tested most of the use cases of joining in the platoon, of splitting up the platoon, of a car that cuts into the platoon and merges out, to increase the gap, to decrease the gap again. So first we did it on the test track, and then we went on the open road. There was a route defined around the test track that was at Idiada premises. That went from Idiada to Barcelona and back, so it was a loop of about 200 kilometers, where we also tested it then for a couple of days actually in the real traffic. So there was no, we didn't do anything with the roads. The other road users were there. And so then we could also see and test how often these scenarios that we tested on the test track actually occurred, like other vehicles cutting in, etc. But also tested how, for example, how this worked when we went through a tunnel, how the platoon went through toll gates. It was all there in the real road. And sometimes we had to, of course, in tests, it doesn't work all at once. It's not for nothing that we needed the whole 2 weeks actually find some errors and then try to fix it again. But in the end, this worked, and this is how it. This is the story of our testing, I would say. Yeah.
Does it answer your question more or less?
No.
No, very interesting. Maybe we can talk later about this a bit more.
Okay.
You can go after this half an hour. You can go in any detail
Yes.
with Marika. Thank you for your question. Anyone else who would like to
Hello.
ask a question?
My name is Ali Hadjakis, and I would like to ask, obviously the show project have taken into consideration the needs and requirements of people with disability. I would like to hear a little bit more about that. And I was wondering whether any of the other projects are also considering their needs in what you're developing as standards.
Henriette, yeah, please.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your questions. And yes, that's something that when we speak about shared mobility, about cities, I think that's something that comes very in an early point to say the services that we are developing, it's about creating more inclusivity to have to enable access to these automated vehicles. Of course, we know, and we have heard today and yesterday, it's for increasing the safety, having reaching more sustainability, but it's also enabling more inclusivity for people who can't drive, or for some reason, maybe they can't afford a car, or maybe they don't have a driver license. And this is something where we see, and especially as UITP, where automated mobility has really a meaning. So it starts there, I would say, having this inclusivity enabled. And when we look at more detail, of course, we have to go away from a bit like the usual type of users, having the commuter and so on. Of course, it's important to have this mass transport, but how to be sure that people, for example, in undeserved area or vulnerable users can also use the service. And that's why we have some demo sites focusing on this. Like the one I mentioned in Sweden, I would be happy to give you more, or to give you the contact with the person working there, doing really investigation, for example, with wheelchair users, as I mentioned, but also with children. They had a bench of children using the shuttles and giving their feedback. I think that's also very interesting to have more diversity in the type of feedbacks that we're getting from the users. But let's get in touch, and I will put you in contact with the team there.
Any of the other speakers want to add to that, or? No? Okay. Thank you.
Oh, if you want me, I mean, just from development part, so we are far from having a look at that. So I think this is too early from my point of view, at least for the private cars.
Okay. Okay, thank you. There are a couple of questions here in the front. I don't know who was first. Oh,
Hi,
you
Ion Turcanu, Luxembourg Institute of Science and Technology. I have a question for the Ensemble project. I was wondering what communication technology has been used for the car-to-car communication in the platooning, and if more than one communication technology has been used, was there any difference in terms of performance? And another question is, are the protocol implementation specifications publicly available?
Marika?
Yes, thank you. Yes, so the communication protocol was using the ITS-G5 communication protocol, but that was only done because that is what is now broadly available. But in principle, it was defined and specified as platform neutral. So with the idea of a future of 5G being available everywhere, this is still possible to use it to the Ensemble-specific platooning protocol for 5G. But for now, we use the standard ITS-G5. And yes, the deliverable with this communication protocol description is publicly available on our website. Yeah.
I hope that was a sufficient answer. There are a couple of questions here in the middle. I don't know who was first. Yeah.
I'm not sure if I was first, but I give it a try. Stefan Dijks-Juk, thank you very much for your presentation. Excellent, by the way. Just one question on the validation and on the approaches. We've seen that this is obviously a challenge, and you've shown that you combine the proving ground tests with the field tests, with the simulation tests, and you mentioned the scenario database. Now, my question is, how far are we away from having let's say, a harmonized or a uniform agreement on what is actually needed in terms of combining all the three approaches? How far are we away to apply the methodology? Because you mentioned a follow-up project. You can answer in kilometers, you can answer in time, you can answer in years. But I would be very much interested from all of you, maybe having a comment on how difficult is it to have the safety of automation validated in the future. Thank you.
So you can choose your own magnitude or
okay,
metrics as a...
Thank you for the question. Okay, so basically regarding the question of the test methods, which I think is the easiest one to answer, basically each of the projects, even of the users of the methodology, has different test platforms because we cannot have a common toolchain for everybody. So this means that basically what we do is to, first of all, to define a scenario. Okay, this scenario has some parameters, and we need to define the more effective way to validate the scenario by using the different platforms which are available, no? Which are proving ground, simulation, child testing, and even field testing. Okay, so this means that normally the simulation is where we are executing more test cases because it's the one where we can reproduce more parameters, but we also need to have a good performance in the simulation part. And also we try to, with this approach, to demonstrate that the scenario coverage is met at this stage. Okay, this is for the, let's say, a selection of a scenario and also testing and validation. Okay, so this is, but the first question was more about the scenario databases, no? So one of the challenges is to have a standardization part. Okay, so I think now there are different, well, there is an initiative of ASAM, no, or defining a way of defining the databases. Okay, so in that way, if we have a common way of defining how the databases should be used, then the next question is how we build these databases that can be used by everybody. Okay, so let's say that for the standardization part and toolchain part, I think we are close because we have defining, there are some standards like the OpenX standards from ASAM which are putting the basis of this, but the second question is how we build a common database that could be used for all the stakeholders, for safety purposes and homologation purposes. Okay.
Thank you. Any additions from?
HiDrive will also look into this issue, and especially the definition of use cases and edge case scenarios, and provide the database hopefully at the end. The good thing is that we have a lot of raw data, real data that has been collected in L3 pilots, and that will be used, and I have the agreement of all vehicle manufacturers to use the data, whether they are in HiDrive or not. That will help us a lot to have data from many different countries to be used for the scenario database that we are preparing.
Thank you, Arya. There are a couple of questions here in the middle. I don't know who was first, but...
Good afternoon. My name is Marcel Otto, representing Rijkswaterstaat, this National Road Authority in the Netherlands. So I didn't hear or see anything about the role of a road authority in one of the presentations. I find it hard to believe that there is no role for a road authority in the future, especially when you have mixed traffic situations for a long time. So maybe you can say something about this. Are there some conclusions or recommendations about an active role of a road authority concerning connected cooperative and automated driving in the future?
I think this one connects to some of you, but I see Marika, I see you already nodding. Yes, please.
Yeah, I can make a quick start, and I think you're completely right, of course. The road authorities are in all of these projects, but let me stick with the ensemble project, an important stakeholder. And we did connect with them as being a stakeholder. The ensemble protocol is not only about communicating between trucks, but also with infrastructure, and it has effects on the infrastructure when you're driving with platoons on the infrastructure. So it actually opens up the possibilities to have the I2V communication, infrastructure to vehicle, when you have already your protocol defined and standardized between all vehicles that can be used also to communicate with the infrastructure. So yes, they are there. They are an important stakeholder which we aligned with. They were not directly part of the project, but I think for sure, but we were in contact with them, aligning with them. That's for the ensemble project.
Henriette, yeah, you want to add, please?
Yes, for the show projects, we are mostly dealing with cities, so locally, really with local authorities in the cities, but it's linked with road authorities. Something that come to my mind to this topic is we are developing, for example, trainings to say it's really close with all the work we do with application guidelines and recommendations and so on, but to say when a city say, okay, I would like to develop, to deploy shuttle services, and I have already like a manufacturer, what do I need? And these trainings will really help to tell them exactly, with also a checklist, so very similar also to the other project, having kind of checklist saying what do you need as infrastructure, and for example also the topic of remote operation, what do you need concretely, and how do you train your employees? So as I say, we are looking more at local authorities, public transport authorities. How do you train your employees so that they can deploy the services?
Yeah, for the L3 pilots, we had RDW from the Netherlands and BUST from Germany being direct project partners. And for High Drive, we have established a kind of platform for the communication with road authorities and cities, and we will invite them to together with us develop those kind of harmonized admission procedures. So yeah, they are of course playing an important role there.
I hope that has answered your question. There was another question over there, and I see a hand raised over here.
Hi, I am Bernard Jacob from University Gustave Eiffel. I have one question for Marika about platooning. It's a quite common question, but what do you expect as the next LOCs to deploy platooning in Europe, and in which schedule do you think that it could become a practice for freight transport in Europe?
Thank you. So the next steps actually after ensemble, I think are twofold. We have to look at first maybe the confined areas or specific hub-to-hub locations where you can really implement either more autonomous functions or the support function of platooning. But I think, as I see it, we should focus more on working towards the effects of the more autonomous function than only to focus on the support function and get that really spread out. So, but both can be done in parallel, because we have the support function there. And as I said, it's the basis for the autonomous function. And actually for both, I think we need to move on with seeing what does it mean when we really use it in the logistical chain. Does that answer your question? Did you ask about years or when, or a prediction? When, yes. When? I can't see in the future about this. It depends on, there's a lot of dependencies here on it's not only the automotive sector that needs to do something. There's a lot of other stakeholders here that need to work together to get this running. Yeah.
Thank you. There's a question again here in the front. I think we have
Yes.
time for one or two more questions. And
This my name is Reija Viinanen, coming from Finnish Lapland, our snowbox testing area. This is not a question, actually. This can be a comment or some kind of vision for the future. In our area has been premium German or Central Europe OEMs has been tested 40 years. Normal winter testing, manual driving. Okay, you are asking what is the next, how we can see the future after 10 years or decades. I can't see any kind of autonomous future in my mind or in our road or driverless vehicles last first mile if we can't see in the Lapland, Sweden, Finland, Nordic countries, somewhere where is permanent winter temperature or winter conditions, because systematic testing, bad weather testing needs much more than 1 week, driven kilometers, driven hours. Whenever I see, for example, Daimler, Volkswagen Group, whatever, NIO, what else, when they are permanently testing 2, 3, 4 months, year by year, then I believe that they are developing autonomous driving as well. And this has been started. Thanks, because of the Commission, because you have set the bar much more higher when you are evaluating the project. Roadview project, get the funding. And I think that this is not only the OEM's problems, but this is problems, what can we say that it covers all of us, those who are representing testing areas. We have to serve our clients, OEMs and related technologies representatives. We have served them well. If we are collaborating with IDIADA, you can collaborate with us because you don't have snow, winter, whatever, but we have all the bad cities, bad weather to serve you. So this was only the comment. But I'm happy if you can answer. Thank you.
Okay, so just first of all, there are two different topics. One is the cold climate testing. This is what you're referring to. Yeah, these are, every OEM is driving on the frozen lakes in Sweden and in Finland and so on. This is basic tests as we do the hot climate test in South Italy. I have been doing that, and the main operating hours were from 11 to 3 in the afternoon, having the hot temperature. So this is just a basic vehicle hardware testing, if you want. So of course you need to run and make sure that your vehicle is able to operate with those temperatures, high and low temperatures. The automated driving has some other issues. So the point is then if new sensors are able to operate, so we are talking about laser scanners and some radars are more stable. But to make you happy, I can tell you that we have a test site in your area for high drive. So, and you are invited to see how we test there.
Yes, for the show, I can just say a word. We have Scandinavian countries involved. We had already the real-life demonstration started in January when there was snow, so it was great to be able, and it was not testing anymore, it was already carrying a real passenger, I would say. And we have countries in the south, in Greece, Italy, Spain, so we will have also other type of harsh weather condition that we can investigate. So I think it's a good point, and that's the idea of having this diversity of sites.
Okay, with that, I think we're getting close to the end of this session. I have one question, because I think it's very nice that we finally meet again after the big COVID time. I know that all of you have been suffering in your projects with COVID, delays with doing trials, getting people together at places from different countries. Just a small question, was there anything positive from COVID that helped you in these projects? Because I know a lot about the pain, but any positive message? Just curious.
Yeah, maybe that virtual meetings are possible for solving some, not all, but many issues, and that you learn that you can save a lot of time for traveling. So this is what I learned.
Good news for the traveling costs, yeah.
More actividad, just more for operative perspective, as we were not having many customers coming to Spain because of the COVID situation, we were able to use more the proving grounds because we're not used in our demonstrator, let's say.
Thank you. Lutger, I don't know if you have any final remarks. In that case, I would like to ask you to give a big applause to our presenters and for yourself. Thank you for all your good questions, and it's good to see you again. And let's continue now with detailed questions for the speakers. Thank you.